Hey there, film fans. I'm Jeff.
I'm Dave.
And I'm John, and welcome back to the Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies, both new and old, with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right, and to avoid lazy negativity, we've decided to make this episode a little bit of a drinking game.
I'm surprised.
Woo-hoo.
So anytime we say anything negative at all about this film, about each other, about every time Dave demonstrates wind coming out of a duck's ass, we're going to play this sound. That sound means we're taking a drink, and we hope you drink along with us.
So, pour yourselves a glass, and we're going to talk about how in 50 years it went from Save Our City to Save Kim Kardashian's lawn.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
Jesus.
all right, there you go.
Fuck those guys.
Cheers.
Their defense during water restrictions was like, I don't think famous people watering their lawn is taking a dent out of it. It's like, you're not helping.
Cheers,
Yeah.
fellas. We are talking about 1974's Chinatown. I'm going to take you down.
Why did you whisper
Take you down to Chinatown, which you two picked out on an episode that I
Yes.
could have done if we filmed it at a certain time, but you
You wanna-
decided to move it to a different time when I couldn't do it.
Do you want to know why we picked Chinatown?
I do. I did
This-
listen to the end of that episode, but
This
yes.
is going to come as a bit of a bombshell, but I've never seen it.
Shocking.
I've probably seen it like 3 or 4 times. Not too many times, but a couple.
I've joked about it.
Surprising.
This literally qualifies for should have seen this by now because I've joked about it so many times, referenced it. It's a pulp culture classic to reference that
Yeah.
movie. And yeah,
Yeah.
I've
Our
never
old
seen
segment.
it.
There's so many iconic lines in this. We're going to, a lot of people have talked about this movie. This is the way we do it here on the show, people. We set up the context. So we give you what was going on that year. We talk about the film news that was happening in 1974. We talk about a little bit of world news that was happening in 1974. And then we get into Chinatown. We get a deep discussion with our diverse ideologies, different kinds of ways of thinking about movies. And we're going to talk about it, shooting from the gut, no stuffy criticism. We're not just going to pull some facts at you, people. We're going to talk about our watch and or rewatch of Chinatown, which I rented. Did either of you have Paramount Plus to watch
I
it?
do. Of course I do. I'm a Trekkie.
Yeah.
Damn it, bastards. Well, it said it was on Fubo, and I was like, oh, okay. And believe
It's
it or
on
not,
Fubo?
we have we have Fubo in the house, they lied. They were liars. So I rented it. Fuck.
Fubo is Fuba.
So that's it. Maybe a little gripe here and there. We're gonna get drinking. So again, if you need to get to your Chinatown news, you need to get to our conversation about Chinatown. Check the show notes. Scoot ahead. Just
Yeah.
scoot ahead. All right, go ahead. Scoot. Check the show notes. They're accurate.
Don't be shy.
None of this. Yeah, I see all
Or
the time show notes that are wrong.
Don't, because
But
I
no,
give
aren't
Jeff
accurate.
so much shit during this segment.
That's right. Yeah, but we are a drinking show. We got to drink, people. We got to get going. So we're gonna talk to each other. We're gonna catch up, do a little gripe or two, and get drinking. How you guys doing? Anything you want to talk about here at the top of the show?
No,
No, you
I'm
want to
gonna
call
sa-
out some sponsors?
I'm going to save it for my
Yeah, we can do
gripe.
that.
Let's do that. It's been a week and a
Yeah.
half, 2,
All right.
whatever.
Yeah, we got some
Time isn't
sponsors. We got a beer-making man who sends us stuff every now and then that we still love to shout out because he is the dude
So
that we
good.
love over there
yeah.
in fucking Queens, brewing
Yeah.
it up, Mr. Carlos Barroso. You can find the link in the show notes. His handle is cbarroso.beer if you want to give him a follow. He's always doing some fun beer-making stuff. We also have a
Yeah.
music artist in residence who provides all of the music for us. That goes by the name Dasein, Dasein. You can find their music available on all the usual
Dasein.
music platforms. Go there, listen. Dasein.
So good.
Did you guys have any mini reviews? Did you see anything?
I
Have you
didn't.
guys watched any of?
Dude, I saw
Not
Carrie.
really, it wouldn't be a mini review, but I want to poke it just for a second. Has anybody started Alfonso Cuarón's The Disclaimer, that new series?
Wait,
I
has it started?
saw a
Have the
review
episodes
of
actually
it
come out
today.
yet?
It
Oh.
has started, and I haven't
it was a-
watched any of it yet.
It
I've
was
been
a
busy
very,
this past
it
week.
was a very stuffy review. They bagged it big time.
Interesting.
Oh, I'm sure,
Yeah.
sure, yeah. I'm curious to. I haven't watched any of it. I'm sure people are gonna have opinions, but anyway,
Wait, is that the one with Kate Blanchett in it?
yeah, and Kevin
yeah,
Kline.
yeah, it's the one. Yeah, because they were like, even
I
Kate
love
Blanchett
Kevin.
can't save this.
I love
Me too.
Kevin.
Oh,
Oh,
boy.
wow.
Oh boy. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see.
Fonzo.
Still watch it though. Judge for yourself. Don't listen
Right.
to any motherfucker.
Right.
I still
Well,
have
no
not
rev-
seen Megalopolis. I guess you guys
Yeah,
have
same.
not either.
No,
No.
I've
All
watched
right.
Carrie the musical 6 times this week.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Well, guess what, Dave? I can tease something that's coming ahead. And Carrie by Stephen King was published in 1974.
What?
Oh, cool.
How about that? See, this is the kind of good shit that we
Yeah.
give you about the year 1974, people. Thank you for tuning in. Stick around. We got plenty more where that came from.
All right, hit it.
All right. So I guess some gripes then. Dave, you want to
Right.
gripe? You want to get into it?
I don't know if it's a gripe. It's more of a funny story.
Okay.
You're gonna have
Sure.
questions.
Set the gripe timer. 1 minute.
Okay, you're gonna have questions. But this week, while I was getting ready to go for a tech show call,
Huh.
I got locked in my apartment.
Oh.
And we ended up having to like go down the bloody fire escape to get out and go and get someone to unlock the door for us because the lock on the door jammed and just wouldn't fucking open. So the bar was in the wall. It was literally damage the wall or go and get a landlord. You were stuck in your fucking apartment. So
Wow.
yeah,
That is insane.
we ended
So
up
what did
getting
you do?
we ended up getting it to pop, and I was able to get out, but I was like half an hour late for my call.
Oh,
Oh
dude,
my
I'm sorry.
God.
It was oh no, it was hell funny. Because I'm texting them like, yeah, you're not gonna believe this. I'm locked in my fucking apartment.
Yeah.
This,
How many
yeah,
other?
yeah, this is like right up there with my dog ate my homework. Why
Yeah.
were you late? I was locked in my house.
Yeah, I couldn't get out of my house.
Was this the kind of thing where you're like sending videos and be like, I know this might seem petty, but
Yeah,
like
they're
you
like-
have to see.
I mean, I'm sure at some point someone was like, "How dumb are you?" Like,
Sure.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Fired.
Yeah.
Jeffrey,
Okay, here's my gripe.
what are you
Here we go.
upset about this week?
Go ahead. Okay. This has been happening, and I've noticed this a lot recently. And now John and I, we were servers. We did our fucking time, and we ate this shit, and we had to do it. I've been noticing so many times where servers start singing happy birthday, which you're apparently allowed to do now that it's not copyright or whatever, and then they fucking dart as soon as the table starts singing happy birthday, and it gets really awkward. They'll go to be like happy birthday, and then they'll drop it, and they'll fucking peace out. So then you're
Yeah.
there, and you got the thing, you
That's
got the
funny.
candles, and then there's nobody to cut it. There's nobody to serve. People literally disappear. This has happened to me. I've seen this happen to several times, like at least once a month over the past like 6 months, maybe twice a month.
I get it. I
Weird.
get it because like a lot of servers are out of work musical theater actors, and they're like, "Bitch, I'm union. I'm singing this."
Well, even the people who
Yeah.
aren't, just
Hey.
fucking sing it, sound bad. It's over in 10 seconds. It's okay. Just do it. But it's weird. They fucking dart. It's strange. I don't know when
You've
this
had
started.
a lot of birthday dinners in your
No, 'cause
in
you're
your
just-
life
when you're-
over the
when you're-
past several
well, no,
months, huh?
No, when you're out to eat, I notice it when other people are singing. You know, when you're out
Oh,
to
you're
eat.
just like
only
looking
takes one.
around. Yeah.
Yeah, it only takes one.
Well, I want to know why happy birthday just fucking crashes and burns after the first like 2 lines. It's only a 4-line song.
Do you guys still
Yeah.
eat out a lot in New York?
Too much. It's expensive as fuck.
I get Grubhub a
I
lot.
miss the restaurant scene
Yeah.
in New York a lot. I bitch about it all the time over here.
I'm in a new
Remember that-
neighborhood,
Remember
so
that
you know
Thai
we
place?
gotta.
I put that guy's kids through college because I was
Which
just getting
place was
Thai
that?
food twice a week.
Oh yeah,
that was good.
sure, yeah.
What was that place called?
Yeah, how's your new
In Astoria?
how's your new neighborhood?
Well, here we've got a different Thai place that I'm putting their kids through college now. So it's all good.
What was
For
the
me, it
name
was
of that
always
Thai place around the corner from?
Boonshu 2.
Bunchu too. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
They're not there anymore. They've
Oh my God.
they've moved.
I still miss Kumo,
Yeah,
which had
sure.
a $8.99. You get 2
Dude,
sushi rolls
oh my
plus a
God.
soup and
Dude,
a
did you hear
salad
the
for lunch.
the
$8.99.
the Thirsty Koala restaurant that is over there out on
Australian.
Ditmars? No, they got closed down for fucking
happened?
tax evasion.
Oh my
Oh
God.
my God.
I mean,
Don't fuck around with
those
people in Astoria.
Aussies
Tax
came
evasion.
in
There's
and said,
so much
"No."
tax evasion in
There
Astoria.
was a sign, and the community went nuts. They're like, "What?" And I'm like, "That's where I got my Anzac
I
biscuits
forgot
every
about
year."
that place. It was so good.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
where we ate our
The sushi
co-
prices here in LA are everything is a little more expensive here for like the mid-level quality restaurant. I bitch about it all the time, but sushi very specifically, it is hard to get affordable sushi here. This still tastes pretty good.
Just get some canned cat food.
Come
It
on,
tastes the
dude.
fucking same.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
know.
It's so
I
sick.
know.
Get your
Alright.
get your like your gas station sushi. You know what I mean?
Airport
Yeah.
sushi.
It's because you have to
Yeah.
drive everywhere here, so they know that you can't they can't just like walk next door conveniently. Once you're in, they've kind of got you.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
we were
Stuck once you're there.
spoiled. We were so fucking spoiled because you had to walk past all the stuff to
Oh
get to
my
our
God.
apartment.
Oh
Anyway.
my God, it
I
smells
miss
so
that,
good.
you guys.
Oh fuck.
What are we talking about?
Yeah,
Guys, we're talking about
The
1974, and we're talking about Roman Polanski's Chinatown. And I was trying to think before we start setting up the year here, is the only other Polanski we did Tenant from 1976?
No,
Is that
didn't we
the
do
only
Ghost
Polanski we
Rider
did?
2010? Didn't we do Ghost
Ghost-
Rider from 2010?
We did
Ghost
Ghost
Rider?
Rider?
Mention it.
I think you might have just mentioned it. I don't think we actually discussed it on the episode.
Wait, there's a T in that, right?
Okay,
You're
I
not
thought-
saying Ghost Rider, not the Marvel film.
No, I'm talking about the Ghost Rider from 2010. I thought we
Right,
did. I know I
right,
watched
her.
it.
Actually, Polanski directed Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
With Nick
No,
Cage.
Writer. Ewan McGregor, Pierce
He's still
Brosnan.
alive. He's like 90. What if he comes
Thriller.
back into the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
He'd be arrested immediately. But anyway,
They need to shake things up.
Yeah.
They'll film in London. Extradition. Where is he now? Where does he
Yeah.
live? Somewhere in
Europe somewhere,
Probably Prague or some shit.
somewhere without extradition laws.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's
Sorry,
do
I
it.
laugh, but it's not funny.
So 1974 is the year. Are you ready to set up our year? Are you ready, people?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay,
Yes,
so
I'm so
The
excited.
population was 4.3 billion. The population of the U.S. is 213,000. Man, have things blown up in our parents' lifetime, for sure. Sorry, Dave. In
Wow.
your lifetime. All right.
Fuck you.
No, I've fuck you. Guys, I saw a discrepancy again. Again, it happened on Wikipedia, and they cite Variety, I think. There was one movie that was the number one movie at the box office, and then on the numbers, I checked the worldwide gross, and they had a different movie at the top of their box office. But I believe the numbers is right because more sites have cited this movie as the highest grossing movie from 1974. So I'm going to go with it.
Yeah.
What's your guess for the highest grossing movie that came out in the year 1974?
Alvin Purple.
Man, I'm still going Godfather 2. Is it not that?
Good guess. Godfather 2 is at number 6. So we'll give that
Wow,
some
It's not
love
a very
there.
good guess though. It's not a great guess.
Yeah,
It's not made
an
a
okay
decent
movie,
amount of
too.
money for Paramount Pictures. No, friends, the
gotta-
number one movie
Yeah,
may surprise you, but it was Blazing Saddles.
Oh,
Was
I was
the
gonna
number
go-
one
okay.
movie.
I didn't know if
Yeah.
it might be one of the two Mel Brooks movies that came out that year.
Somebody's going to go back and
Blazing
get a
Saddles,
shitload of dimes.
Well, just to skip ahead, Young Frankenstein, which
It's the
also
only-
came out this
The only
year.
not racist joke in that movie.
Blazing Saddles came out February 7th. Young Frankenstein came out December 15th, 1974.
Wow.
Young Frank was the
Not
number
fuck
4
around.
highest grossing film. So therefore, Mel Brooks
Wow.
has 2 of the top 4 highest grossing films of 1974. A year that
Way to go,
features
Mel.
iconic films like Chinatown and Mean Streets. It's really actually Mel Brooks' year. Okay, cool.
Honestly, yeah.
Towering Inferno was the other movie.
I saw that
Yeah,
at the
dude.
drive-in. I
I'm
saw
literally
it.
looking at the
Did you really?
IMDb page right now.
Yeah.
Towering
I was like
Inferno, that's what they
4.
say. I'm going to keep going with the numbers here. So number 3
parents
according
really
to the
fucked me
numbers.
up.
And they're all the orders, they're all there. So The Trial of Billy Jack, which actually came out on January 1st, 1974, was in this list here. Number 5, skipping past Young Frankenstein, is Earthquake, which, by the way, was a Universal picture. So if you ever go to Universal in Orlando, I remember the Earthquake
Orlando,
ride
yeah.
was fucking awesome. That was cool. And running out the top 10, Godfather Part 2, Airport 1975 for Universal, The Life and Times of Grizz. I just thought I didn't look it up what the end of that is. The Longest Yard.
I think it's Grizzly Adams.
I think you're right. And then number 10 is Murder on the Orient Express. A couple other movies that did pretty well do
Wow.
include Benji. Benji was up there.
Fucking Benji.
We have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre for New Line. Come on, get in there. The Great Gatsby was number 16.
wow, New
Chinatown
Line
was
out
number
in the 70s?
19. Yeah, Death Wish was number 20. And guys, guess what? The number 25 highest grossing movie of 1974, according to the numbers, was Gone with the Wind.
Still, oh my God, it's
Which
so making
came
money.
out in 1939.
Where
Yeah, it was
in the
25th.
list?
It's-
Where in the
it just
list
never
was
stopped screening in the South.
Where in the list was the man with the golden gun? James Bond.
Number 21. That's what I have in the
Wow.
numbers. $21 million, 11 million tickets sold. Now, again, this is still in that weird time where, like, domestic, international, like, maybe the numbers are just
Yeah,
look
sure, but
crazy with it. But
That's an international. I feel like James Bond probably traveled pretty well back. Like as long as it's been around, it probably did
Nope.
good international business.
Yeah, up
well, it did not
until-
do as
I
did
don't know.
not do as well as Erinnerungen an die Zukunft. Unfortunately, grossed more money than the other
What's
guy.
that about?
As did Thunderbolt and Lightfoot. Did better for sure.
Let's talk about that.
Dirty
in case.
Mary, Crazy Larry also did better than that. for
Yeah,
sure. And
Dirty
Herbie
Mary.
Rides Again came in number 11. A couple film news things here before I ask you guys to talk about some other shout outs for the year. Let's see. I'm here. Technicolor ceases its legendary dye transferring printing process. No more Technicolor. The MGM celebrated its 50th anniversary big fanfare. How about that? Including a retrospective documentary called That's Entertainment. Which I believe that was like one of the highest grossing movies, what the fuck ever. 3 disaster films are released in 3 consecutive months: Airport in 1975, Earthquake, and The Towering Inferno, respectively. All were box office successes.
Yeah.
Kevin Costner made his film debut in Sizzle Beach, USA, although the film was not released until 1986. And also, I think it should be noted, too, that this is that weird time. The Exorcist was the #1 movie at the box office for weeks 2 to weeks 13 at the box office. 12 weeks in a row of this year was The Exorcist. And then guess what? 3 more weeks in June. The Exorcist in summer, the year after it came out, was the #1 movie 3 weeks in a row. Couple Oscars things. The Conversation would actually win the Palme d'Or, but... And I know it's Palme d'Or, just whatever. I'm not French is not my language, guys. Palme d'Or. All right, there we go. Fuck you all, fucking everybody. So Francis Ford Coppola had a pretty good year because that was obviously him in The Conversation. Gotta love Gene Hackman and John Cazale in that movie. Get at. But guys, The Godfather 2 would actually go on to win 6 Oscars, including Best Picture and Best Director. Get at. Fortunately, Al Pacino did not get the Oscar that many people thought he should have won for Godfather 1, although he fucked himself when he said he was pissed that he wasn't considered a lead, even though the studio was like, Brando is going to win. You should be in supporting and win. And he was like, I don't want to be a supporting. And so they said, fuck you, Joel Grey's going to win for Cabaret. But Al Pacino did not win, nor did Jack Nicholson, Dustin Hoffman, or Albert Finney, who were all nominated this year.
Category fraud.
Yeah, fucking crazy. You're right. Man, we still got the button. Let's like to sync up. Dustin Hoffman for Lenny, Albert Finney for Murder on the Orient Express. But no, the Oscar would go to Art Carney for Harry and Tonto, which I'm sure wasn't offensive at all. Supporting role.
It's still not as offensive as like Johnny Depp doing the Lone Ranger.
That is true. Touche, Dave. Supporting would go to Robert De Niro for The Godfather Part 2, a role he spoke entirely in Italian except for like 2 sentences. He beat Jeff Bridges, who was very young, and of course teaching legend Lee Strasberg and Michael Gazzo. Both of those 2 latter gentlemen were for The Godfather Part 2, along with De Niro. And famously, they said, Lee Strasberg, what do you think about Bob winning? He was like, he should have won. He should have beat me. There you go. Kudos. Guys, don't forget, Mean Streets gets a lot of love, but Ellen Burstyn wins an Oscar here for leading actress in a film for Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. And Marty actually accepted on her behalf. Probably the first time he touched an Oscar for decades before he would finally win for The Departed. Faye Dunaway was, of course, nominated for Our Film, as was Gina Rowlands for A Woman Under the Influence. Ingrid Bergman would win one of her 3 Oscars, in this case a supporting role for Murder on the Orient Express, beating people like Diane Ladd, who also appears in Our Film, Talia Shire for Part 2, and then Madeline Kahn gets in there for a comedy nod for Blazing Saddles. That's right, she was nominated for an Oscar for Blazing Saddles.
She was phenomenal. In that.
And then, just like this, like film editing, like The Towering Inferno wins film editing and beats Blazing Saddles, which is up for film editing. It's brilliant, right? Chinatown, Earthquake, The Longest Yard. Last thing I'll say about the Oscars here is Chinatown only won 1 Oscar. What do you think it was for?
What do I think
screenplay.
The Chinatown Award was for? Yeah, for sure.
Yes, it definitely went to Robert Towne for his screenplay. And it should be noted that Robert Towne wanted a happy ending at the end of Chinatown, which is fucking hilarious. How hilarious is that? And Roman Polanski refused to let this be a happy ending. And then after the film came out, he very quickly said, you were right. Very, very, very quickly. John, you got any other films you want to shout out from the film year 1974? Any that we talked about, perhaps?
I was going to call out Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, so you mentioned that. A Woman Under the Influence, John Cassavetes. Bob Fosse's Lenny. We'll call that out. And maybe Ingmar Bergman's Scenes from a Marriage. How about those 4 for some important, smaller films?
What else did we do from this year?
This was a great year.
Did we do?
What else have we done this year? I'll mention this one more time because I just love this stat so much. You talked about how The Exorcist was still #1. Remember I told you the inflation, if it had been adjusted, that movie would have earned over $3 billion before it
Yes.
left theaters.
Yeah, and we
Suck
were
it,
kind of like,
Marvel.
oh, that can't be right. But
In this, if we had adjusted,
Guys,
like insane.
that movie came out in 1973, and it was #1 at the box office for 15 weeks.
I'm pretty
the
sure even James
following
Cameron.
year.
Yeah, even James Cameron, when
And-
he listened to our show and dropped that stat, went, "Fuck
Right.
me."
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that just does not happen. Yeah, what else have we done from this year?
Maybe not that
I was
much.
trying to think about that too as you were talking about it. Have we not landed on this before?
Maybe we never landed on this year.
We've landed in the 70s, but
God.
not 4, I don't think.
I guess not.
Wow, is that the first time? God, I feel like we've had so many repeats, but I think you're right, you guys, because if anyone remembers, we did talk about all the Godfathers on our Corona franchise face-off. We did touch on that, but it was not because of our random year generator isolating
Right.
just Godfather
No, it was
2.
because of COVID. Yeah.
Because of COVID. That was so much fun. I still
Coronavirus.
miss that. I would totally just do that again.
You miss COVID?
No. Good God.
No, we had a pretty good COVID
Anyway.
though. All right, a couple things that happened this year. Are you ready? Really quick. Penn and Teller meet for the first time.
Wow.
1974.
How did they
Yeah,
meet?
how
Do you
did
have
they
I don't know.
details?
I looked it up because I thought he was in New Orleans for
Was
a
it-
long time. But then I think they actually met in Philadelphia. But fuck, I could be wrong. But he was on Bill Maher's whatever his separate podcast is, where he gets really stoned and has people
Oh,
over
yeah,
and stuff.
yeah.
Anyway, they were talking about it. Okay, couple of things. Richard Nixon starts out the year by imposing a nationwide 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, then thought to be the most oil-efficient speed because there was oil embargo and there were a lot of oil price inflation and stuff going on this time. But this might have been a little bit of a ruse because 2 days later, on January 4th, President Nixon refused to hand over the tapes subpoenaed by the Watergate Committee. Yada, yada, yada.
Wow.
Eventually, he gets impeached on 3 articles of impeachment, including obstruction of justice, failure to uphold laws, and refusal to produce material subpoenaed by the committee.
He's
No
just lucky
shit.
they didn't have GPS back then, because you know when you rent a car
Right.
and they give you the GPS, they check the
Right.
GPS when you bring it back to see what maximum speed you did.
Yeah. And to anybody who thinks consequences matter for people in power, Richard Nixon resigned in August, and Vice President Ford was inaugurated, sworn in, August 9th as the 38th president. And in September 8th, he gave a full, free, and absolute pardon of Richard Nixon. But forget not that All the President's Men was a huge hit published by Carl Bernstein and Bob Woodward, which came out in June. So we knew about Deep Throat, we knew about The Inside Job for months, and they still pardoned Nixon, and everything was fine. I mean, he wasn't reelected, Ford, but what a fucking time to be alive. A couple other things that happened around the world. Canadian
this has
government of
happened
Pierre
before.
Trudeau falls. Pierre Trudeau. So, Justin, hopefully you keep your shit together, right? Here we go. OPEC ends the oil embargo begun in 1973.
Justin's about up, right? Is there
Yeah.
a term limit in Canada?
I don't know, but he's still
been
young
Prime
as
Minister
fuck.
forever.
Let's see. Nixon and Brezhnev meet in Moscow to discuss limitation agreements for arms. Let's see. Portugal had a little overtake there going on. The emperor of Ethiopia was deposed. The Patty Hearst situation, 19-year-old daughter of publisher Randolph Hearst, is kidnapped by Symbionese Liberation Army fighters out of her apartment in California. How fucking crazy is that? February 5th, that happened.
Nobody locks their doors in California.
That's right.
Yeah.
Patty Smith
We'll talk about
released.
that. We'll talk about that, actually.
Patty Smith released what many consider to be the first punk rock single, "Hey Joe." I think this is pretty cool that punk rock debuts the year Chinatown comes out. I'm just saying. Sorry, burp in the middle of my sentence. People magazine debuts with Mia Farrow gracing the cover. Premier Russian dancer Mikhail Baryshnikov defects from the Soviet Union and joins the American Ballet Theater. And god damn it, he is so fucking good. Holy shit, Mikhail! Stephen King Carey. The novel Jaws is also released, written by Peter Benchley. So that was a pretty quick turnaround by Steve there. Good job, buddy. Physicist Stephen Hawking published his landmark paper, Black Hole Explosions, introducing the idea of Hawking radiation, the idea that black holes are not truly black because they emit heat. Happy Days begins its 11-year run on ABC here in 1974. ABBA wins the Eurovision Song Contest by
Yes.
singing Waterloo in Brighton, England. And last but not least, I'll just say
Wow.
there was a whole lot of Ted Bundy this year. That's all I'll say about that.
I did not know Eurovision was a thing back then. I didn't know it existed for that long.
Yep.
Way to
I'll
gloss
throw
over
in. I
Ted
want to throw in
Bundy.
one
Jeez.
more. I want to throw in one more detail, one more movie, and one more detail because I think this. I don't know if anyone, or maybe only one other person, had this much of an impact on the film industry and entertainment industry moving forward. Steven Spielberg's first feature film was released this year, Sugarland Express, that was
Hey.
released into theaters. So this was
Pretty
the
cool.
build up to what would be the shift in the entire zeitgeist. Him and George Lucas were gearing
Nice.
up, starting this year, to change the face of everything.
Was Jewel
like,
short?
all of that. No. He had released several TV movies, including Duel.
Okay.
Sugarland Express
Right.
is the first one to go straight to cinemas.
Okay,
Right.
cool.
If anybody gives a shit, to be a little cinema snob here, Pauline Kael wrote a fantastic article because Terrence Malick's first film, Badlands, came out the same year. And she wrote in one article about the two new filmmakers and how each of them were like going to like shape cinema moving forward, but they were like so totally
The article was
different.
like, this guy's going to be a nobody. Like,
Yeah. Only 10 of us will see this guy's movies moving forward, and everybody will have to go see the other guy's movies. But she was just, they're both fucking geniuses. It's just, man, who would have known? It's just crazy. Jaws came out the next year and changed everything. Like, unbelievable. It's pretty crazy. Anyway, all right, let's do it.
All right.
Okay.
Are you ready
Set
to
it
talk
up, dude.
about Jake? It's Chinatown.
Jake.
All right.
Yes, I'm ready. Yes.
This movie is, of course, set in 1937 Los Angeles. Is it about the water crisis? Is it about greed, corruption, power? Is it about Roman Polanski sticking his middle finger up
is it
at
about all those
Hollywood
things?
and LA? It's about so many things. It's also just a really good fucking story that he didn't even write. So, although he certainly got his fingertips all over it, I don't want to make any jokes or references here. This is also its...
No, that wasn't.
Maybe we'll just start as we did with the Tenet. We will of course acknowledge what he did was terrible. We're going to try to talk about this movie. We're not acknowledging or judging. Or of course we understand that happened.
Come on,
We're
guys.
just gonna
There's some
talk
very
about the
nice
film if
people
we
on
can.
both sides.
Oh, Dave.
Jesus
No,
Christ.
Dave. That happened in
No.
1976, which does not absolve us, from talking about any movie he made before that.
It was wrong.
76. It was not long after that. And of course,
the art exists regardless of the people involved in creating it, and a lot more than just him created this. So
and there is a book. I'm gonna look up the person's name in a second because I was re-listening to the podcast I listened to a long time ago. But if you are interested in the background, because we're gonna talk more about the film, Sam Wasson, WSSON.
It's a great book.
Is it because he went to your grad school?
No, I just like his film books. I've listened to a bunch of them. This is a fantastic book.
He started at Wesleyan under a very famous film historian, and then of course moved to LA after he went to USC Film School. But it is a very, very, very famous book about Chinatown, the history, the legacy, and a lot of it does center around the Big Four. As he
never heard
refers
of
to
it.
them. Yeah, a lot of it.
It's called The Big Goodbye, Chinatown in the Last Years of Hollywood. And I'm going to reference a little bit just because he does put really in this movie does land at a very interesting apex of the time of what was happening in Hollywood.
Yeah. So he talks
great.
about the Big Four, the four gentlemen at the peak of this film, which are, of course, director Roman Polanski, writer Robert Towne, producer Bob Evans, and the film's star Jack Nicholson. And of course, there's other iconic figures in here, including the film's score by William Goldsmith, which ironically disappears for 20 minutes at a time and then just comes back for a stinger and then disappears and then comes back and disappears and comes back. It's really wild. Don't forget John Alonso, who shot the film, and then Faye Dunaway, who, holy shit, is she a femme fatale if you want to go into the old noir technique?
She is amazing.
And then John Huston was nominated for a bunch of awards too. So,
Faye was also in Towering Inferno this year. And then, next year, she shot Network, and it came out in 76. I mean, we were right in the thick of her just like explosion into the A-list.
And I have to say, we talked about
Bonnie and Clyde.
We talked about Bonnie and Clyde, and I remember my note, which I think John agreed with, and maybe Dave did too, which is honestly for me, it was Bonnie and then Clyde somewhere else because she was so fucking good. She like blew him out of the water.
She's on another
she's at another
level.
planet. And obviously Network too, of course.
She's a genius.
Okay. I'm going to read, as we always do, the IMDb description, just to keep us consistent of what the film's plot is. And then I'm going to kick it to you for Dave, your initial watch, and then John, your rewatch this time. Here we go. A private detective hired to expose an adulterer in 1930s Los Angeles finds himself caught in a web of deceit, corruption, and murder. Chinatown.
Nice lean in. Nice lean in.
So Dave has not seen this first. Should we start with him?
For sure. Yeah, before we taint it with any opinion, I want you to be able to go clean, and then we'll talk about
Yeah.
our rewatches.
All right. I mean, at first, like going into this, I had the question: would this have been as successful if it didn't have Jack swaggering and smirking his way through it? And I have to say, it was like fucking boring. I'm fucking with you. I'm kidding. This was fucking brilliant. This was
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant.
Yes.
The build in this is like, there's a reason this is taught in screenplay classes.
Yeah.
It is fucking amazingly written, and the story is compelling. And it's the only thing I found sad is the fact that the thing it's remembered for is the twist near the end and that one fucking line. Like, because the build in this is amazing.
Is it the
Yeah.
one she says? The line she says?
Yeah, the one she says.
No,
and
the
then,
one his partner
and then
says.
the one, well, no, the one that she drops on him.
His partner says at the finale. The
Um,
one that she says in that house before she leaves.
Yeah.
Like near the end.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah, there's a
About
because
Catherine.
there is a twist that everybody knows because this is an old movie, but like there's that, and that's kind of what it's known for. But it's worth watching the movie because the journey to that is fucking fantastic and compelling as fuck. I'm swearing a
Yeah.
lot because I really liked it. John,
Good, dude. Dude,
Awesome.
I'm so happy to hear you say that. I mean,
like I had not seen
What-
this. I've made jokes about it. I've referenced it. I hadn't seen it, and I went in knowing that like exactly what happens, but so much happens before it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's and because of that, Dave, and maybe not like tonight or whatever, but it is so rewatchable because there's so much information. Like it's such a well crafted. I was trying to talk about this with Elizabeth that because it was her first time. She loved it, and there is a obvious mystery. This is a detective story, but this is a noir that has
Yeah.
and that style of movie had not
Bounces
really
in and
been
out of
made
it.
for.
I feel like it bounces in and out of
Mhm.
noir.
Well, in so many like straight up mysteries that don't
Yeah.
have any aspects of thriller or noir the way a lot of the best ones do.
Did you
You know,
read
it doesn't
the
really.
thing where they said they cut the voiceover from it? Because originally it had him doing a voiceover, and they cut it.
No,
So
I didn't.
yeah,
Oh, I'm so glad.
there was originally a voiceover where he was
Mm.
like they were doing the full detective noir, and they cut it to make it more effective, and it worked. Sorry, I'm going to
Well,
interrupt
yeah,
everyone.
No, you're good. I'll go ahead and say this just because I thought this was very interesting to learn, and I'm not. Robert Towne spent years on the original screenplay that was eventually submitted to Bob Evans at Paramount, and they hired Polanski to do. And according to Sam Wasson's book, which is not unheard of, this happens all the time, and directors don't take writing credits for them. Polanski rewrote a draft of it, and that is what is shot.
Yeah, that
So
I think
Polanski's draft
Polanski
was what
that
was filmed,
cut the voiceover.
and he had a lot
Or,
of
like, the
opinions.
narrative.
Yeah, he wanted it to be a tragedy,
one
but
lazy. There's one lazy bit in it though, like Morty the Mortician. Was that an in joke or like what? Like
They should have just named him Marty because this film co-stars where the fuck is it? Joe Mantell, who was nominated for an Oscar for Marty, which we talked about on our show 2 months ago.
Nice.
That's my 6 degrees of separation with that. It should have been Marty the Mortician.
So funny though. That guy was well cast, right?
he was
know who
well
Jake-
cast.
Yeah. I thought he was funny. I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought that part
So
was funny.
funny. Wait. What was Jake's line right there? Is like,
Don't
it's my
eat my
lunch
Venetian
hour. I thought
blinds
I'd
or
drop
something?
by and see who dropped dead lately.
So good. So good. So we'll still, I'm not saying, we'll still credit Robert Towne for very, very, very passionately. He had become, apparently he was very famous for being a rewriter, which is very often in Hollywood at any time period from the beginning to right now, where some people who get hired as writers, yes, they'll have their original work, but they'll often, if they're really good, they might just make their bread on rewriting some scripts,
Right.
just maybe
Yeah.
doing a dialogue pass or a story pass or something like that.
Carrie Fisher
So
used
he
to do
had
that.
really. Who?
Carrie Fisher.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Uncredited. She used
Sure.
to
Yeah,
she used to be
yeah.
like a joke coach.
She was basically a consultant to make sure that women weren't written to be shitheads in films. We talked about this because she co-wrote Postcards from the Edge, the Meryl Streep Mike Nichols movie.
Mm.
That's based
Oh,
on
I love
her,
it.
like it's like a semi-autobiographical film.
So there were some, yeah. I mean, so there were. I'm not saying that he was not already credited with some really amazing. Like he is uncredited as being a person who kind of rewrote I think it was the ending of Bonnie and Clyde. So that was kind of what really launched him. Like he did this mysterious rewrite on that script and that
Wow.
exploded for him. And even if people in the industry don't know exactly what that means, he just had his fingers on it and it made the movie a lot better. And the movie was one of the best movies of the year.
Yeah.
He wrote Mr. McCabe and Mrs. Miller, the Robert Altman film that really did very well. He wrote The Last Detail. Hal Ashby's film. So he had already, I'm not saying he wasn't there, but this apparently was like the screenplay for him that he had been researching for years. He went deep into LA archives. This is based on In Truth. This story about what happened with water just and how it was coveted and then built and then released in this really fucked up way to disperse into the valley so they could make all this money in the farmlands. We're still dealing with that, some repercussions of that issue today with the way water is rationed out in this state that comes from another place.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And
so
it's
he
not
went
going
deep.
well.
No, it's not.
No surprise, according to Sam Lassan's book, he was very frustrated with how much it changed. And he kind of like disassociated himself from it until he won Best Screenplay. And then he like, you know,
It was
stood up because of
me.
course the heart of the story is, of course it's his, you know? I mean, Roman Polanski made the filmable version of it because apparently it was a very long screenplay. It wound its way more around the actual in and outs of the water situation.
The funny
it
thing
wasn't
is,
quite as clear about the end.
The funny thing is, I would have sat through that because this was
Me
so
too.
well done. I would have
now-
sat through that.
You say that, but you know, we'll never know because Polanski sat down and said, "I know how to make this, and this is going to be the best version of it. So let me change
He
it."
might have been right.
I think this in the 300-page version of it may have been a wonderful miniseries. You know, there may have been some version of it, but anyway, bottom line is, all the people who were heavily involved in this ended up affecting it greatly. It was Jack Nicholson who brought in John Huston. He wanted him. He thought he would be perfect for that role and thought he could bring him in. Which is, and maybe we'll chat about this moving forward. And sorry, I know we're not in the bulk of it yet, but this movie isn't just an objectively great film. There are so many aspects of it that are, for lack of a better word, kind of self-referential, a little meta. To have someone like John Huston, who is a master, famous director of old Hollywood noirs, playing someone who is the villain in a new neo-noir from 30 years later. I mean, there's so many aspects of this. And when this is happening in the time of the new Hollywood, we'll definitely, I want to chat about that stuff in a little bit. But this is, if you love movies, you're going to love this. But if you are also a lover of movie culture and Hollywood and film history, there are other reasons why you will find this even more compelling. The actual making of it and the background has its own story that's really,
that was John's 8-minute segment on 30 seconds of why you should watch Chinatown.
Yeah. What did you think about it? What did you like it?
Although, John, you haven't been buzzed yet, but fuck you.
Yeah. Fuck me. Jeff, how was your rewatch?
Honestly, I was watching this movie thinking, is this the greatest movie of all time? So that was my rewatch.
Yeah.
And I do want to talk about the Polanski thing, and cause I know this will come up in books, but I want to contextualize it with us because I've seen the Pianist, and I'm sure you have too. And I've seen we watched
the accentutive pronunciation.
I
on
gotta
that was
do it,
amazing.
yeah. And we really
you have to.
when we talked about The Tenant, but I forget, have either of you ever seen Revulsion or Cul-de-sac, which are his mid-60s films? It's like, because he went to acting school basically in France. We'll go through his whole thing in a bit, but like before he did The Tenant, which he starred in a lot of his own movies. He was kind of very Spike Lee-esque, where it's like it was cheaper, but also he loved to act and et cetera. But it's just so, it's brilliant. Look, The Crucible might be the best play of all time because it's not about the witch trials, right?
Right.
The witch trials it's layered on top of McCarthyism, right?
That is what got me into theater.
So every single thing that is being done with that play, and I've seen, it's one of those plays where it's like I've never seen a production as good as it could be, because it's like every single drop of ink was, am I fucking sticking it to McCarthy enough? Because if this line doesn't help me say fuck you,
Yeah.
America, for letting this happen, and fuck you that he leaves Congress,
Yeah,
and then we just
McCarthy
pretend
needs
to
a good
move on as
fisting.
if it didn't just leave a generation's worth of guilt and et cetera. And so with this, it is hard not to accept he cast himself as the guy that cuts Jack's nose. How it has to be so deliberate. It has to be so intentional. What happens at the end, the treatment, the snark. Like I feel like he's all over this. Just in the way the pianist, which seems very straightforward, it was his journey because as a kid he survived. His parents were taken to 2 different concentration camps. He survived on his own. He's essentially a street rat orphan. He survived the Holocaust. Like, and his parents lived in France and they moved to Germany during the Weimar Republic. So the guilt that he basically has on them, and his dad survived and they did not have a great relationship. Like, okay, so I guess I am talking about Polanski here, but I want to put that off to the side. It's hard for me not to think about it in the rewatch because I'm still seeing, like today, I was like, I want a whole movie about the nursing home. I want a whole movie about the women
Mm.
making it, and of
Yeah.
course I'm thinking of Happy Gilmore where they're making like the like
That might be the plot of Happy Gilmore too. Who knows?
yeah, exactly.
They should-
Mister!
Yeah,
yeah, I think I killed that Mr. Lady.
the Mista lady. Oh my God, you know the Mista lady? I think I just killed her. That could have been Diane Ladd for all I know at that. But anyway, but you mentioned the rewatch. It's like I have seen this several times, and I'm rewatching it, and there were just different things that just fucking spike for me every single time. And this one, it was definitely that sequence. It was definitely the line where it was like, "Oh, he bought this property." It's like, is that so weird? It's like, well, he died 2 weeks ago, so yeah, and he bought the land last week, a week after he died. So
Yeah,
I would say that's a little weird.
It's pretty
Like,
fucking unnatural. Yeah.
and then, of course, they go to the nursing home with the shootout and the famous scene where
That's-
Faye Dunaway
I
gets the
mean-
car and he jumps on the side of it. It's like, I literally, that could have been the whole movie for me and it would have been one of the best movies of all time. You know, it's just,
Yeah.
it really is. So it's
I
that good.
think that's
It might
why
be.
this
It
works.
might be. What? Why?
No, well, because not only is like the screenplay written from JJ's point of view, so is the cinematography. Like the cinematography is from his point of view as well. So like when he looks around a corner of a doorstop, the camera pivots so you can see what he sees. And the really fun
Right.
part is sometimes it's nothing and sometimes it's a really big fucking clue to what's going on. So you get
Right.
stuff revealed to you as he finds out.
Right, which is-
yeah,
and
never
that's-
once
and
are
we'll-
we in on
we'll
the game.
credit- I think when you start out to, and it's true with any film, but we'll go, the adage I have mentioned before, that Ron Howard thing, I think all films are inherently mysterious. I think there's something natural to our medium, even if it's not a mystery. But I think the question you always have to ask yourself when you're writing is, will the audience know more than my lead character?
Yeah.
Or am I going to keep
There's
them
two ways
going
to
with
go
them?
on that. Yeah.
And it's such a strong choice to make it subjective with him. One, I think it inherently brings you closer to them. But there's ways
The only
to.
time they let them in early was when they showed the stuff in the pond halfway through the movie, and it's like that's for later, but we're going to show you right now.
But even then, we saw it when he saw it.
Yeah.
He walked up to the
Right.
pond and looked in it. We just didn't know what it was yet.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
The
Sure.
glass, right. Yeah, we said it.
Hmm.
I think that is I'm just. It's kind of obvious
It's
when
a
you
little
think
shot
about
at
it.
the
but
audience.
That's
isn't it?
one
It's
reason
like,
why
oh,
it's
you
so
haven't figured this
effective.
out yet? Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think, and when the sheep are the sheep are let go in the thing, and then the guy was
But-
like, "Who's paying you?" That's what I want to know, Mr.
Yeah,
Mulray. Well,
but
who's
there's-
paying you? And it's like, well,
there's
that's what this
also,
movie's going to be about.
Like,
if you didn't.
there's also red herrings in this. They throw things in there that
everywhere.
misdirect you a little. Like a real
A
case.
lot of things.
Yeah.
Which is why I was going to
fun.
ask you, Jeff, because you've seen it, and Dave, maybe I'll ask you next time you rewatch it. But I'm not saying this might be the most rewarding
Oh yeah.
rewatchable movie for me. I liked this movie a lot the first time I watched it. I don't think I saw it with the same level of quality. It was probably like an 8 or 7 or an 8 for me. Every time I have watched it since then, it has blossomed into an even better film for me. It wasn't just an
Right.
enjoyable rewatch. I got more out of it the next time I
Right.
watched it.
But it wasn't
would you say this is up there for your like rewarding rewatches?
Oh, 100%. I mean, yeah, I guess it would be a rewatch for Dave. Sorry, but yes, I mean, it's not like a Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy where if you watch those kind of movies over and over again, like those little, like it's just so dense. Or even Game of Thrones, like so dense. It is, but it's also not. You know, like so there's just something about it, like the little tiny details, like James Hong fucking legend. Like
Yeah.
exactly what
Yeah.
he's actually
Big
so
fan.
important, small character, like you in the whodunits worlds, usually those characters pop more, but I feel like it was just the right amount of brushstroke. I think he's even billed as like his somebody's brother. Like I don't even know if he's named in this, and yet he's so important, which is not to denigrate him. It's actually smart for the filmmaker because it's like you just don't realize how important it is until all of a sudden the movie's over. And I know there's some racial
I
things
mean,
too,
I don't
but
know if that was a filmmaking thing or that dude just owns the screen whenever he fucking walks on it.
why name him? Why bother? But I think one thing I do love art that makes me think about it just makes you it like all of a sudden you're just like off, you're just thinking about other things that relate back to here. And I've certainly watched films with people that like relate everything to themselves and they just want to like put themselves in everything. And other people that it's just a what if, like what if I was that character or whatever. To me, I think one of my favorite quotes of all time is basically like after JFK died, it unleashed the American cynicism where we just became became a cynical society after JFK died. Do you not think this is my artistic expression watching this film this time? Do you not think that Jack Nicholson, basically in his entire career leading up to this point, from Easy Rider through Five Easy Pieces, through fucking On a Clear Day, You Could See Forever, into this film, and then of course he goes right into Cuckoo's Nest the next year. He
Mm,
represents this He is such a cynical character. He never
fair.
seems even when he's acting or schmacting is like a joyful like moment, he
Mm.
seems so snarky, but not in like a sarcastic way like our current society
There
tends
was one
to
time
favor.
I saw that and it was like the phone scene where he's like trying to sleep and the fucking phone keeps ringing.
Yeah. Yeah,
And I
exactly.
was like,
Perfect. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
he keeps getting calls. It's the same mood I have on Sundays when Amazon rings the doorbell like every time
Right.
like I've ordered 3 packages
Jeff,
and they
yeah,
ring the doorbell
Jeff,
3 fucking times.
Yeah.
Jeff, yes, I feel like I'll tell me if you agree with this. Cynicism is different than irony. And I
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
like in
yeah.
the
Oh
postmodern
yeah.
world of like the irony, the early 2000s, like he still took himself seriously, Jack Nicholson, the man and the characters he played.
Right.
So Jake Gittes was cynical about the world around him, but he took himself That's this whole journey of this movie, right? I'm not a schmuck.
Why do all
I'm
of his
trying to
characters
solve this
start with
problem.
J
Honest
though?
living. He's trying to earn an honest living.
Yeah.
All of his characters start with J.
Joker.
What's his
I
name
see
in
where you're going.
Cuckoo's Nest?
Actually, yeah, what is called his name?
McMurphy, McNulty,
What's his
McNulty.
first
McMurphy.
first name?
Yeah, is it Jack? Is it
No,
John
no.
McMurphy or
First of
whatever
all,
the
I think
fuck?
they just call him McNulty, but no. It
Um,
is
Even before he becomes Joker in Batman, it's Jack.
R.P. McNulty.
yeah, they just named
McMurphy. Oh my God, what the fuck is wrong with me? R.P. McMurphy.
RP.
We have talked about this on this show.
Dude,
Sorry.
what a good point though. No, I hear what you're saying. And I think I'll definitely want to hear you guys talk more about what you felt about it. But just to put it into a little bit of context, this is 1974. We've already kind of gently mentioned it, but Bob Evans took over. He took over as the head of production in Paramount at 36 years old in the late 60s, 66, 67, I want to say. And Roman Polanski was one of the first people to kind of prove that Robert Evans was able to do it inadvertently because Robert Evans got into that job and greenlit Rosemary's Baby.
Wow.
And
Mm.
Rosemary's Baby and then Love Story were these gigantic hits, kind of out
Yep.
of nowhere. And he had this whole new belief. He was still at a time where the old studio heads were still there, some of them anyway, but they were still not quite sure how to navigate this new era where there was a younger audience, there was television to compete with, they weren't sure what to do. So we had those two movies that were a gigantic hit.
Also,
He
it's
greenlights
October,
this movie
so
called The Godfather.
you know,
What?
Rosemary's Baby has a prequel out now. They made a prequel to it.
What?
Yeah.
What is
Why
it
the
called?
fuck would they do that, dude?
Yeah.
Of course they did. It should
God
be.
damn
It's
it,
probably a
dude. Yeah,
series.
I asked the
Yeah.
same question.
Come on.
That's
So he's
awesome.
rising to the top, having this, riding this new wave and trying to embrace it. And he greenlights The Godfather. They're doing that, and then this script gets submitted to Paramount, to Robert Evans for Chinatown, and they take a big chance on it. So anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that we have movies that you've heard of that came out in the new Hollywood times. We have Mean Streets, we have Bonnie and Clyde, we have Rosemary's Baby, we have these movies we're talking about. And then we
Graduate,
get
yeah.
to this point in the mid 70s where Chinatown will eventually come out. And after this movie comes out, the Manson murders occur.
Yeah.
And a lot of people cite that as the end of an era in Hollywood that kind of shut down the whole 60s thing that had kind of bled into that part of the 70s, and everything changed. And the only reason I'm bringing
Manson
that up
murders
is because
were 1969, just right.
Well, I mean,
Anyway, sorry, you keep going.
They
Keep
were
going,
in-
keep-
yeah, they were in 69, and then these two movies were made, right? Because Rosemary's Baby came out in
68. 68.
68, right? So that happens. Roman Polanski changes.
well, obviously,
so if he
because
wasn't
his
bringing-
pregnant wife was murdered.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So if he wasn't affected enough with the politics that he came from growing up in Europe with that kind of trauma affecting him, I feel like people from Europe always bring us very specific kind of cynicism on nationalism, especially people who grew up in their generation. So that kind of cynicism towards nationalism, towards any kind of happy endings and stuff like that, this was brought into this movie. And I think that there's something richer about the fact that not only does this movie put a bow on it in terms of course, we're probably not going to see the little person get justice against the Goliath, but that even in the tiny story, the whole theme, the whole idea of something that is recognizable and understandable, that is not fixable, that is not addressable, because it's, you know what I mean? This is Chinatown. The whole theme is not, it's just a mess and you can't make sense of it. You can make sense of it. It's just fucked. That I feel like that is such a specific mindset of the 70s. No, we all know exactly what's happening.
Accurate review
It's just
statement.
fucked.
Well, and that's why I love that.
Right?
Who are the other two cops that come in? That's why I love that element too. The other two cops, and they tell Jack, they're like, "Oh no, he was murdered. There was salt water. There's no salt water in the reservoir. Yeah, he was definitely." We said the coroner's report, and they just say like, "Of course, everything like things that we had to discover in the movie." They say it like, "Of course, that was the case." I love that scene. That happens in movies. Because another thing too that I think can happen in inferior movies is things that we should have known all along just get revealed. It's like, oh no, that's my sister, and it's like, well, why didn't you just tell us that 5 scenes ago, right? It's like with this movie, I feel like it's cool where like we learn these things the hard way because he almost gets murdered, right? Like he's out there and people start shooting at him at the middle of the night when the dam starts, when the reservoir starts to open up and the runoff starts to
imagine
go.
if everywhere you went, people were just shooting at you.
I shot at a lot.
Yeah, wait, that's Trump.
Guys,
Sorry.
that the last 2/3 of this movie is 2 days.
Yeah.
That one day is when he gets on the boat and goes to wherever to go see, to see Cross. And it goes all the way to the following night when he tracks her to her house and looks through the window and sees that she's keeping her. And then he goes home and has lying on the bed and the phone won't stop ringing. That is all one day. That's like an hour of the 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Can I just follow up my joke with the whole thing about everybody look up Egg Boy in Australia. That's how you deal with politicians you don't like. Okay, look up Egg Boy.
And Australia. Okay.
I want to put some levity on this. You know one thing that I loved about this rewatch, and I loved this all along, but I loved it this time. So this thing starts out first of all with the guy from Rocky, Burt Young, and he has the scandal, and he reacts in a way that only people in the 1970s react to news. He like starts beating the blinds, and Jack Nicholson's like, "Yeah, you can't beat the blinds there." Like anyway, but then.
It sounded like you said,
"Eat the
blinds."
turns out,
Jack
it's Diane Land pretending to be Mulray's wife. Pretending obviously she was paid, et cetera, setting this whole thing off in motion. But
we're in spoilers for a 50-year-old movie, everyone.
That's right. But then you finally gets to the meeting that Jack goes to, and you hear Mr. Mulray, and he goes up there, and Jack looks at him. And I just love it that here's a guy who's supposed to be like this infidel, right? Like he's just supposed to just constantly fucking and just constantly like he's probably a rabble rouser and like he's going to be this huge thing. And he just looks like a sweet man who doesn't fuck. I just think it's so brilliant. They cast this guy where you're sitting there, you're like, this guy? And it's like, I know like you could sit there and say, well, he's a man, so therefore, and it's like, no. This man is not fucking. This man is not. No. Like literally this man with the bow tie. I don't know if he had a bow tie, but if he was 20 years later, he'd have a bow tie. There's no way this guy fucks. So immediately, like suspicion on the whole thing. I just think that was like such brilliant casting.
Judgy.
in the funniest way.
No,
You
no,
don't
you're
think
right,
that was
dude.
intentional? You don't think that if they cast, if he cast like
Of course.
fucking John Hamm in that role, you don't think he would have known what he was doing?
Well, his
Yeah.
partner's like, not his partner, but like the other guy who runs the water department is like,
Right.
you work with a man for a certain amount of time, you get to know him. They either sleep with women or they don't, or whatever
And they're
that
like,
line
this
is.
guy
He
does
doesn't even
not.
joke about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy does not.
You know,
That
the
was his
thing
way of saying he
I
does
kinda
not
I want to
loved?
hear.
When we got to when they descended into Chinatown, um, it was like there were a couple of like B-roll shots there to establish Chinatown because LA didn't have a Chinatown at the time. So I was like, sometimes even the pros need to throw a camera out their car window for B-roll.
I'm having deja vu here of Dave talking about some cinematography tricks that they did for this film. I feel like, what was the film we did with the shootout at the end of the movie recently? What was the one that we did? What the fuck? Oh, the last, what's the 1999 LA Confidential?
Yeah.
I got some LA Confidential vibes
Yeah.
here. And we talked about this because they definitely modeled a lot of their
Yeah,
style
because
off
they
of
were
Chinatown.
like when they shot this, they were rebuilding Chinatown, so Chinatown didn't
Right.
exist in LA.
That's what he's saying. Dave, what
Yeah.
were some cinematography things that, this is your first watch, it's a brilliant movie. What were some things that, like, obviously stuck out? Like, I felt like it was shadowed almost like a Kazan film in certain ways, but, like, what were some things that you as a cinematographer caught?
The perspective change of like when we're discovering things is like you can use the camera to discover things, and we used it from the perspective of the main character, which really stood out to me.
Nice.
Like especially
There's
that
so
one
many
shot where
times where
that one shot where he walks in the house and he looks around the door frame and the camera moved to show you what he's seeing,
Right.
and it was like there's no clues there, but we're showing you what he's seeing anyway. It's like this might be a
and
clue, it
Hitchcock
might be nothing.
Hitchcock
They played that game so
was
many
so
times.
Hitchcock was so famous for doing that. We're
Mm.
making it subjective where a camera will point to like this, you'll follow a person's hand down to this thing that reveals some
Yeah.
information. But there's something about Polanski that's like edgier and darker. And what I noticed really specifically
Well,
with The Tenant
it
and
was
this, they're
subtler.
made 2
It
years
was way
apart.
subtler. Is the thing.
It's
It's like
subtler, but very
he played
specifically though, there's
he played
more.
a game because sometimes the camera showed you nothing. Sometimes the camera just showed you the scene, and sometimes there was something very vital to the story that was included.
There was also just a lot of tracking camera with
Yeah.
this. There was a lot of
It really
movement
was.
with him.
Yeah.
So that you felt like you were literally like going into a house and turning a corner with him. So it didn't feel, I'm sure it was extremely thought out and, the way they were going to
Yeah.
make these sequences work. But a lot of times it felt like you were just on somebody's shoulder behind him. There was a very conscious choice to always be behind him so that you could
Yeah.
always go over his shoulder and see what he's seeing.
Right.
There's also just, how about the color palette? This is supposed to be
Oh,
in the
yeah.
time of a drought.
Well, I
and
mean,
everything ranges from like gray
they used
to brown, except for
Eastman tungsten as
when
well. So
when you saw the color. Yeah, sure. That's like the kind of film that they were
yeah.
on, but specifically the design that the Silberts, the husband and wife or brother and sister, I can't remember, production designer and costume
It's
designer,
both in this film.
ranging from gray to like browns and tans,
Mhm.
so that when you saw like they only shot in those like classic like old Spanish revival houses, so that the white would really be like blowing out, like it was, it was
Yeah.
really intense. And I'm sure you guys felt it when you did see the color green. It felt like poison or something. It felt like there was something wrong. There
Yeah.
was
Oh, yeah. Where
something
was that
corrupt was
specifically?
happening when you saw
that was the
green
70s.
grass.
That was
Oh,
the
yeah.
70s though. It was like anytime green turned up on film, it was like a little off. That was
I
a
love it.
thing
Sure.
right through the 70s.
I mean, that's another thing that I feel like you've seen other films like copy this, like this exact.
Right.
This is
I
a
mean, why
noir
wouldn't
that is
they?
shot
This
in
is
color,
amazing.
mostly during the day.
Yeah.
They embraced sunlight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
embraced like
That's
the.
what I was thinking. Every time they
Which,
went to the LA River, which by the way does not look any better now than it did then. But also like when he's
True story.
when he's following Mulray and Mulray's looking around, it's so fucking bright. It's so bright, and also it's embracing the time period too. I love that all these movies in the 70s, like they're
Yeah.
just exposed. They're just fucking they're just out there. Like why the interiors, which were obviously done studio, there were a lot of lot shots, I'm sure, but like that they're so shameless about how fucking bright and desert-like and just it looked like a fucking John Stein. I know it's 1937. It
Like,
looks like a fucking
when
John
were NB
Steinbeck
filters
out there
invented?
sometimes.
Was it like, was it
Right.
because of this?
And the way they fit, the way they paired like long wide shots that literally covered miles and miles of
Mm.
acreage, right? And then the close-ups on Jack, like the way that he did that so seamlessly that didn't
I
seem like it was just
yeah.
shotgun filmmaking. It was
I,
so wild.
I do want to say, like, the scene where they're in bed, I want to see a lighting plan for some of these soft lit scenes because it was amazing.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah, look gorgeous.
the-
Again,
yeah,
it's in
it was
line. Like the way
so
that they're
soft.
doing, they're all in these crazy. And this is still the same film. Like if you saw just screenshots of the one behind John and then in bed, you'd be like, that's the same movie, even though completely different time
Yeah.
of day, completely different setup, completely different everything.
The love story, like the love scene, apparently, no judgment or whatever, but Bob Evans thought they needed more emphasis on the love story and the sex scene. And Polanski was just like,
Well, it's the
no.
70s.
So because, well, yeah, but
Yeah.
because what the only important part about that love scene is the consequence afterwards.
Yeah.
So it cuts from them kissing in the bathroom to his hand with a cigarette in it, and you just move over and they're in bed together until her phone rings. Right?
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
But she was
the only point is
the fun
that,
part is
that they had
she wasn't even centered in the frame at that point.
they were both off. Yeah,
Yeah.
I loved it, man.
Yeah.
I know which you're
And
talking
then she
about.
goes
It's
to the
fucking
shower and
Yeah,
he
right.
leaves. They both leave each other. They're
Stealing
both like
that.
itching to leave. It's brilliant. They're both like, oh, we need to leave. It's not like we need to be together. It's like, what is the thing that's
And
going to
of
get them out?
course, like so many brilliant directors, including Mr. Steven Spielberg, and Hitchcock did this a lot too. When you allow yourself to move a camera and when you trust your actors, your composition can change within a moving camera. So
Right.
Polanski does that all the time. And
Yep.
so Jack will start somewhere and end up somewhere and people will join. And there's a long take, longer than you realize. It doesn't feel like it's the same take. And when those lunch scenes with him and John Huston, there's a handful of angles in that scene, but a lot of it is played out in two shots with them, moving
Right.
forward, moving back, standing up, moving away. And
A
because
giant
of
fucking
that, I
fish
think
on a
you
plate.
get to, it's fucking fantastic. I just feel like there's
Yeah.
something that is more revealing about character when you sit there longer with them. Maybe it's
Yeah.
just because you think about the movie less. You're not thinking about all the cutting and stuff. You're just like
Right.
getting to actually
Yeah.
live in a place with these people. Man, what'd you guys think of John Huston? Dave, this was probably the first time you saw
Simple and
him like
brilliant.
act in anything.
No, it was actually it might have been. He did
Really?
seem very familiar though.
Yeah, recognizable
Yeah.
human being, right? I mean,
I'm peeing, but I'm going to listen
So-
to you. I'm
so
gonna
he,
listen
weird.
to
he
you
had
in the
that
bathroom.
presence of like that guy's always been. Where is Jeff going?
I'm going
Jeff's
to pee, but
going
I'm
to
going to
pee.
listen to you in the bathroom because I got my AirPods on.
Spider-Man,
My microphone.
Spider-Man.
Yeah. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about John Huston.
Well, I know
I mean, well,
his presence was it got more ominous as it went on. I want to say,
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, he has such a powerful like
yeah.
a dominant persona.
You're like, this guy
And-
might
and
not
again,
be
he's-
right, and then later in the movie, you're like, no, this guy's fucked up. This is wrong.
And they even tell you, remember the first time you ever really hear about him, it's out of her mouth and she says
Yeah.
he's crazy and powerful.
Yeah.
And yet there's such a restraint that you feel the powerful. I think you feel the power.
Yeah.
And you feel his, that energy from him, but you don't see,
Well,
you don't
they
see
don't,
the
they don't give you
crazy,
that straight away as well. Like they hold back, but it's still there. It's
which
like,
is, all right, so this is the line of when Jack says, how much you worth? No, I just want to know, like, why are you doing this? How much better can
Yeah,
you eat? How
right.
better can you sleep? And he says, because the future, dear boy, I want to like own the future,
yeah,
right? Like to literally have that amount of control. I think I said it at the beginning, but he was dating, Jack was dating John Huston's daughter.
yes.
And then
That made
it was for
seem
years and years
awkward
and
as fuck.
years.
Yes.
Yeah,
You
I mean,
mean
there's just
Angela? You
another,
mean
like-
Angelica Houston?
Yeah.
I do mean Angelica Houston. And so I feel like that added a whole other layer of whenever they were around each other. And I mean,
Yeah.
were you sleeping? Are you sleeping with her? Like he literally, to have that scene played out between two people who I think a lot of people who were watching movies at the time knew that. You know what I mean? So that's another
Mhm.
added element to the casting.
Yeah.
This is, I don't know.
I think the
Yeah.
line was
There's-
it made me think of Elon Musk. I'm so sorry to say, everybody, because it was like anybody worth $10 million? He's like, more, son, more. And he was like, well, what
Yeah.
else could you buy? You have a good life, you have a good list. What else could you buy? And he
Yeah.
says the future. And it's like, well, that makes total sense. I mean, this is before Walt Disney started freezing his brain and shit and whatever. But
Yeah,
it's like,
you like, this is like 70s megalomania.
yeah. But no, John Huston's perfect and brilliant. And that scene, another good thing about the rewatch of this is that this is also one of those movies where I tried a couple times to tell Angela, like, this happened in the movie and it was so cool. And it just never does it justice. You know, like my retelling of that scene in particular, I was like, the future. I told her, I was like, the scene, it's so exciting every time I see it.
Going back to the music, which you referenced earlier, is like, does Iceberg
Goldsmith.
Lettuce always have system music if it's from California?
Does it always have
Could
what?
be sinister music if it's from California.
Yeah, Iceberg Lettuce always
Could
have
be E.
sinister
coli.
music.
While Dave's drinking a beer that looks like it's a fucking 2 feet tall.
It's bigger than my head.
Yeah, resin. It's 9%.
Yeah.
So who
Well,
wrote
that
the
explains the
music?
slurring.
William Goldsmith, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Iconic.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Like, when he
apparently the
went
story,
in-
and again, I'm going to sorry?
When he went into the apartment, the first thing we saw was the iceberg lettuce laying on the floor, and I was like, it's from California. When the sinister music kicked in.
I'm sorry, I said William Goldsmith. I'm so sorry, guys. It's Jerry
not
Goldsmith.
William, it's
I'm the
Jerry. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Jerry Goldsmith.
Yeah, fuck.
So there's a great story. There's a great story that I'll share about this as well, just because I think it's really fun. And who knows if it's totally true, but that this is what fell down the pipe. And it's in the book. I'd heard it before, but it's also in that book that there was another score. And it was from Polanski's composer that he had worked with before on the rest of his movies. And I can't remember that man's name. It's Polish. I probably couldn't pronounce it anyway. And they
Jesus.
got to their, they were about to release it. And Bob Evans was like, no, he just didn't feel like it was hitting those film noir tones
Yeah, what the hell?
that so much of those old classic Hollywood film noirs had. There was more of a symphonic sound. There was a little bit more of a classic sound. He calls up Jerry Goldsmith 1 week to go before the score needed to be finished and says, Jerry, you got to save my life. I need you to come save this film. I need you to do it, Jerry. And he I don't know if you guys know anything about Bob Evans, but he's got this real Hollywood kind of tone. Jerry, it's Bob. I need you to come save the day. I need you to come in. I need you to write the score. I need it to be done in 3 days. We got to show some previews. We got to have it done by next week. Jerry Goldsmith literally does that. They recorded it within the week. And this is the score you heard. He pumped this thing out in less than 2 weeks. It was in the print. I mean, that is just makes you want to fucking throw up. It's just like how
print takes time too, like to get an audio sync for a print.
He read the script. He watched the cut that they had, and he called him back. Apparently, as the story goes, Jerry kind of says, "This is what I'm hearing." He asked Bob, he said, "Is there any particular instrument, you want to be focused?" And he said, "Well, I wanted to feel like those movies from old." And Jerry he says, I'm hearing exposed trumpet. I'm hearing
that trumpet solo.
Oh my God, that's magical.
That trumpet solo was fucking incredible.
Even I
Just
noticed the trumpet, and I'm a fucking heathen. So
maybe that's why there was no music for a lot of it. It was like, we need a stinger here.
Maybe,
and it's like, all right, let's just fucking go with the stinger. And then actually it's good.
Well, it's just good. It's just good. It's just good for listeners to remember. I think sometimes before I started making these things, you just imagine a world over here in the West when back then when movies were just made over here in this town, where everybody knew what they were doing and there was a plan and it just went according to plan, and then they released them. And these things, that's not how they're made. They're alive. They change.
Yeah.
Everybody is making decisions all the time. You don't know if it's going to be a masterpiece when you start it.
It's not how
You know what I mean?
And then if something
chance.
gets re-edited, the fucking score has to get re-edited with it too. I mean, it's crazy. This guy fucking did Mulan. Yo, Mulan is so good, man. When they realized everybody's fucking dead, oh my God, he that was like one of his last films with Jerry Goldsmith was Mulan.
Jerry?
He also not William, who apparently might not exist. William Goldman maybe wrote some shit. Who fucking cares? But he would win an Oscar, Jerry, 2 years later for The Omen, which is my favorite horror movie. The original Omen.
Yeah. I mean, and he's very famous for writing, of course, the Star Trek. Isn't that his name?
Yeah.
He's very famous for a lot of the James Bonds. Rudy. I mean, you name it. Anyway, he's a genius.
Fucking Rudy,
I just think
man.
It's amazing that he just pumped that out.
Hey, to tell you the truth, I lied a little.
You did?
About what?
You
That's the quote for the movie. It's one of my
bastard.
favorite fucking quotes in the
from
movie.
Rudy. Yeah. You
No,
got me.
From this movie. To
Yeah.
tell you the truth, I lied a
how'd you
little.
get in here, Jake? How'd you get past the guards? Well, to tell you the truth, I lied a little.
It's so good.
Classic Jack.
Guys, we could honestly talk about this forever, but we should probably start rounding it up.
Yep.
Let's do favorite quotes. Are there any? Sorry,
I just
Dave.
do one other thing. You know about the Who Framed Roger Rabbit connection? This was supposed to be a trilogy. And a lot of the plot of the land grab and stuff was reframed into Who Framed Roger Rabbit when they didn't make the third movie.
Guys, we talked about Who Framed Roger Rabbit in the summer blockbuster face-off. Who Framed Roger Rabbit was the top-grossing summer blockbuster from the year 1988.
Yeah.
Never forget it. Any famous quotes you guys want to... Sorry, go ahead, John.
Just really quickly, I'll round that out, Dave, because you talked about it. This was supposed to be, they wanted to make 3 of them.
Yes.
Bob, Robert Towne, Jack, and Polanski, where every 10 years later, every decade, Jake Gittes would find himself in an LA-based conflict. So this one was set in when was it set? The 20s?
37.
When was it supposed to be set? 37. So the next one was going to be wartime. And then the next one was going to be 50s, like post-war. And then all the shit went down. Jack Nicholson did direct the 2 Jakes.
Yeah.
They did eventually make a sequel. And, it's just not as special. Robert Towne was supposed to direct it. So they were going to, anyway, it does exist. They never made a third one. They did end up making the second one. If you love it and you love the character, give it a shot.
Where
it's
is
not
that?
Chinatown,
absolutely.
I don't think.
Where is Echo Park? I feel like I know Echo Park because they went to Echo Park a lot. Yeah, right now. What is Echo Park like? You live in Los Angeles, John. What is Echo Park
See,
like?
that's why I loved Silver Lake, because I'd been everywhere they went.
Silver Lake is right beside Echo Park.
I see.
That area is kind of north of it.
Also,
and there are some parts of it that are kind of not so great anymore, and some parts of it are still kind of nice. That reservoir
10 years ago,
where they were
the
on
best
the
taco
boats,
truck I've ever
it doesn't
been
look
to.
like that anymore.
Well, there's one more thing I want to shout out, which is the way that Faye Dunaway looks at Jack Nicholson when they're pretending to be partners at the nursing home, and she is obviously loving his game while also playing along. What subtlety and nuance. Literally, he's sitting there. He's like, "Do you have any people of the Jewish persuasion?" No. I was hoping you'd say that. It's like, can I see the logs? We would never do that. That's exactly what my dad. And it's like, that Jack is. It's like those magicians where it's like, no matter what you say, the answer is right. And she is just looking at him, and it's like, holy shit, you motherfucker, you are good. Her subtlety off camera. She didn't just show up to work that day and be like, I don't have any lines. Good. She was like, how can I squeeze all the juice out of this lemon? She was so fucking good.
It's one thing I love about actors who don't have dialogue and scenes and stuff. The business, if they introduce the business in the background of the scene, it's magic to me. And I just hope that was one of the things that made this movie so good.
I hope contemporary actors do that. I hope they're so all in on this shit. They're in on their own shit, but when it's not even their fucking coverage or anything, and I hope directors keep doing 2 shots and just letting supporting actors just live it, man. Because God, she was so fucking good.
This
Favorite
kind
quotes?
of movie, you know what?
Sorry, John.
Hold on, real fast. All right. When you see Jack Nicholson and her in bed, you see a regular-looking human in bed.
With the busted
Once again,
nose.
the superhero, a fucking authoritarian, infantastic, all the bullshit that I complain about all the time. Nobody actually seems like normal human beings anymore. If you're in a movie, you're fucking ripped. And you're the most beautiful version of yourself.
Look at Twister.
There's such a
oh my God.
It's hard
crazy.
to fuck in your super suit.
In Twister, they're the same age as Helen Hunt and Bill Pullman, and they look like they fuck 10 times a day. compared to them. Probably a better way of saying that.
There's a whole element of, I'm going to say this, and I mean it literally. I don't know if we can actually achieve realism in this medium anymore, because there's nobody who actually looks real anymore.
We'll make sure people who want to hire you don't hear you say that.
I feel like you're wrong.
No,
I feel like you're wrong.
No, fucking hire
that.
me. The first thing I would tell actors is stop working out. Stop. Take a fucking break. You don't have to do it in this movie.
You can definitely get that, but whether or not it'll get a studio to sign onto it is a different matter. It's about perception.
Well, I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, what are you trying to
Yeah.
achieve? I don't think people actually want to make that anymore because they're so whatever. We don't have to get into it.
There's a
Anyway, what's
whole
your
lesbian
Favorite quote?
trilogy
Favorite
happening right
quote?
now in Hollywood. So
Favorite quote.
Yeah.
Favorite quote.
Dave, you got one? I'll say mine since
no,
you
I
take a break.
I
Hold
don't
on.
have a
If you got
favorite.
one.
Yeah.
I'll just say mine because I think it's when you see Dave, and maybe you could speak to this, but like the idea of Chinatown is a theme, and it's the fucking title of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They only go there at the very end. It's not about Chinatown.
No,
right?
not at
It's
all. Not at
and
all.
how do you pull off that fucking tightrope walk? So for today, for the sake of doing this, I think I'll use the line that I think you just in a screenplay lands the theme in an establishing way that allows you to be like, that's the first time I'm hearing it, and now I'll understand what it means moving forward. And they find all these other touchstones. You may Noah Cross says in the scene with Jake Gittes and him when they're eating at his estate, they're eating that lunch, the fish head lunch.
Oh, yeah,
Noah
sure,
Cross says, "You think you know what you're dealing with, but believe me, you don't." And Gittes starts to kind of chuckle. And Noah Cross says, "Why is that funny?" And Jake Gittes says, "That's what the district attorney used to tell me in Chinatown."
Yeah.
And boom, landing zone achieved.
Yeah.
We know where we are. That setup is right there, and we're going to return to that. Even though when you're watching it for the first time, maybe you just think like, okay, is that what this movie's about? Are we going to end? Is it all going to be about Chinatown? And it is, but it's the idea. It's just a
Yeah.
theme. It's the idea of the unfixable. And dude, this is one of the only movies that does that. It's so hard. Bob Evans used to famously say, "Why the fuck is it called Chinatown? It doesn't even take place in Chinatown. It's not about Chinatown."
Yeah. That's
But
just where it ends.
it's so amazing. I just think
So
that
good.
is so masterful.
I mean,
Dave.
Dave said he didn't have one. I think
I don't have
my
one.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I have one.
my favorite of the obvious ones, meaning like the famous ones, is, but Mrs. Mulray, I goddamn near lost my nose, and I like it. I like breathing through it.
Yeah.
It's just a random thing. And
Yeah.
everybody knows this line, but I like it. I like my nose. I like breathing through it. Not I like the way it looks, the way it frames my face,
Yeah.
symmetrical. I like breathing through it. And then he ... he says, and I still think you're hiding something, that's a great scene. And then I'm pretty sure she might.
I feel like
be
anyone who lives in a
off-script
story
when
or
her line
appreciates
at-
that quote.
But I think for me, to this time was, and I think it actually reminded me of The Shining. You know, there's a lot of lore in The Shining. I think that in this one, it's when Jack goes to the Hall of Records and he sneezes and rips the is it Who Bought the Land?
The
Is that what he's,
ledger,
yeah, the ledger.
The ledger. Yeah.
But he goes and he says, "Oh, can I take some of these books out?" And the guy goes, "Sir, this is not a lending library. It's the Hall of Records."
Hall of Records.
So there's just something
So
funny about the fact.
pretentious about it. Yeah.
But there's something so funny about the fact that the Hall of Records sounds like it's public information, but
I
he
mean,
says it's
the way
not
he
public.
delivered
Like
that
it's not
line
a
as
lending
well.
library. It's the Hall of Records, and it's like it should be. Nowadays, there's
Like-
Wikipedia. Nowadays, you can Google this stuff. But
But like the way he delivered that line, you knew he was going to go back and rip that page out
right,
after he asked for a ruler. It was like you knew that was going to happen.
right.
I also
But I
really
love
like
it too because that
line-
seemed very Polanski-esque. It seemed like Polanski probably had a lot of personal stake in that line, and I don't know what it is.
Well, he doesn't want to
Yeah,
keep
I wish I
records.
knew what.
Because
I
that
wish
guy
I would-
nowadays it would have been some shithole kid actor who's like a piece of shit. But it's like Polanski probably told that guy. He probably gave that guy more notes than he gave Jack Nicholson. Right? He probably told that guy, he's like, "This is how you're gonna fucking do it. Go there, fucking yell at Jack Nicholson, motherfucker. Yell at him."
I have two more. I really love just because you're waiting for him and her to finally call each other on total bullshit and just actually start having truthful conversation because she's so cagey the whole time. Towards the end, when they're having a drink at her house before they sleep together, he says, "Can I ask you a question?" And she says something like, "Well, I don't think any of your questions are innocent, Mr. Gittes."
Oh, yeah.
That when they're finally like, boom,
Yeah.
they're actually acknowledging that like we both have angles here the whole time. And my last favorite line, because it comes out of nowhere, and I don't know if it was improv, is when Jake is on the phone and his partners are talking, and Ida Sessions calls and he says, "Shut the fuck up." He just says, "Shut the fuck up."
Yeah, and
while
then
he's
she
on the
says,
phone to get
"What?
him to-
Excuse me?" He goes, "Oh, I was checking
It's the
something."
only fuck in the whole movie. It's the only hardcore after. I don't know if he
Yeah.
improv that, but it's so fucking. Shut the fuck up. It's just so realistic. Anyway, I love it. I love it. I'm so glad we watched this. I'm so glad we took a chance.
Yeah.
So glad we came along for the ride.
I mean,
Dave, I'm glad you finally
First
saw
watch
it.
for me. So yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, Watch it next year. Give it like a year and rewatch it. And
Okay.
I'm curious if you would agree that it's like this thing fucking grows on you. There's a lifetime
I
of
mean,
enjoyment,
I
not
feel
like a rewatch like
I
Star
feel
Wars
like
or Lord
there's
of
a
the Rings.
reason
Like
it
a
has the legend it has. So yeah.
hell yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Let's do it. Let's move on.
All right, we're gonna finish our episode with what you've been watching,
Yeah.
and we're gonna tell you what movie we're doing next week. Sorry, guys, next week. But we always like to kind of tease it a little bit. So Dave is gonna spin the random year generator, and John and
Oh.
I are gonna guess what year it is. So John, what year do you think we're gonna land on next? Well, right this very second. So that, well, you know what I mean. We're gonna talk about a movie from this fucking year next week. What you got?
1984.
I think
Jeff?
we're going more contemporary. Let's go 93.
See,
We already
the
did
reason
five.
I don't guess is I know what the year is already.
Oh, my light died. 93. Yeah, you already know. Go ahead. Oh, it is
We're
the
in
1900s. 50. Oh my God, we're going
50.
back in time.
We are going back to
1959.
Oh yeah.
1959.
9.
We're not going to sit here and
5,
Google
5.
movies, people. We're going to go ahead and finish our episode
am.
with what you've been watching. And then we're going to tell you at the very end of this episode what movie. Oh, great, my fucking light went out again. What a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Dave, we'd like to start with you.
timer or
You got to see Carrie the musical a whole bunch of times.
A whole bunch of times. I
Too many
also
times.
well, we had
John's yawning
tech,
here. We
we
usually
had Tech Week, so that's at least 5. And then I've done at least 4 of the
Good.
shows since.
Did you see anything that any of our listeners would care about?
Yeah, it was actually quite funny when we finished the tech run. I yeah, I'll take that, you cunt. I was like,
Fuck you, John, for not getting buzzed. Fuck you. Fuck everybody.
My first note, you're out of control. My first note to everyone was like, yeah, I don't really like this musical. And everyone like seriously looked at me like I killed their dog. And I was like, I hope no one's John Wick. But yeah, and I really did enjoy actually doing that show. But
How strong were
what
these
I-
beers you were drinking, Dave? What the fuck?
They were fucking strong.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna ramble forever.
He's got the big can.
I'm
Dave, are you locked
scrolling-
in your house right now?
I've been drinking for a week. I've done nothing. No, what I did watch this week, because we're in October,
Yeah.
I finally, I've been waiting to watch this forever, Ready or Not. And it's a kind of comedy horror. I would say it's a black comedy more than a horror. But it is way more fucking enjoyable than I thought it was going to be. It was so funny.
Oh, Samara Weaving.
and
nice.
so much fun to watch. Then because I watched Ready or Not, I watched The Babysitter, which is also a bit of fun.
19. Nice.
Has very Zombieland film with the pop-up graphics and stuff they do. And of course I
Cool.
caught Penguin, which
Oh, yeah.
the episode they released this week, Kristen Milioti was like a lead in that showed what happened to her when she was imprisoned. And oh my God, a fucking acting masterclass. It was amazing.
She's great. She's
I'm
really
waiting
great.
until it's totally out, and then
yeah,
I'm gonna
you're
watch
the
it.
reason this shit gets cancelled. Watch it now.
No.
Watch it a week. Dude, seriously, on the internet, all these people are like, "Oh wow, I can't believe this show got cancelled because I'm just discovering it." It's like, why didn't you watch it when it fucking came out? Because
So
I thought this was I thought this was an intentionally limited series, though. Like, it doesn't matter if I watch it now.
no.
I thought they were not.
No, yeah,
starting
Dave, it's a limited
series. I thought
series.
it was just.
they can't afford
I thought it
Colin
was just
Farrell.
an
Dave, if I'm
installment.
Colin Farrell,
Yeah.
I'm like, you need to pay me a fucking $100 million to sit
Yeah.
in that goddamn makeup chair
He's
for
not
another
happy
season.
about the makeup.
Yeah, of course not. But he also signed up for this
and
year, so they gave us so much money.
also-
Yeah.
Agatha,
Jay, so
which
you
is-
just love
funny.
you love Samara Weaving just because she is from Australia? Like, what the hell? So you just watch
No.
you just watch all
No,
Samara Weaving
I mean,
films
she was
and
so
projects.
good in Ready or Not. The Babysitter is like a thing I've been wanting to, like, I kind of started watching years ago and never finished, but it is just fucking funny. So is Ready or
2017.
Not. Yeah.
Are
Like,
they Australian
two-
films or is it just her?
No,
'cause
they're
she's Australian.
Ready.
They're
Babysitter is
right?
Netflix. Ready or Not was just produced. But it is so much fun to watch.
Remember
Especially
Hugo Weaving?
in the-
He's just like in the biggest things of all time, and that's it.
And the funny thing is, they're like
That's it.
only distantly related. Those two.
Wait, really?
But yeah, and
Oops.
Agatha as well, which they had to release a fucking statement basically saying, yes, we've revealed this character because the dickheads on the internet were like, oh, it might be this, it might be something else. And Disney was like, no, it's fucking this. And no one believed them.
Wait,
Because they
Samara
fucked with the
Weaving
fans
is.
so much.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Dude,
That's a good story,
you're
Dave.
stuck on Samara Weaving. Come on, God.
They're niece and uncle. That's close enough.
Niece and uncle, yeah, okay. But she's, yeah.
Okay,
She's
so
made
character on
She's made
Agatha.
herself a Scream Queen. She was in Scream at one point. Yeah,
Okay.
big fan. She's fun. She's fun to watch.
Okay, I love it. Anything else?
Have yourself a Samara Weaving Halloween, everyone.
Love it. Guns Akimbo's in there. Mayhem. Shit.
Oh, Guns Akimbo is so much fucking fun.
Ready or Not, number 1 on her IMDb.
Who else is in
Good
Guns
for you.
Akimbo? That's like Daniel Radcliffe is in that as well. So, yeah.
I don't know. It logged me out of John's IMDb Pro.
Oh, no.
Guns Akimbo is Daniel Radcliffe, Ned Dennehy,
Yeah.
Natasha Liu Bordizzo. Yeah, that's all I
There's
got.
so many cool people in that movie.
Really?
Yeah.
A lot of people with like umlauts in their name, which is cool.
Just fucking watch it.
John?
I have not watched very many things. I've been pretty busy. Still working our way through Harry Potter. Fun stuff, sure. And I started
they
but didn't
reboot
finish
it
because I fell
completely?
asleep. And I've never rewatched it before. Sinister? Did you guys ever see that movie?
Yeah, I stopped that and
have.
waited for
Yeah.
fucking daylight. Yeah.
I bet you were too scared. Yeah, I bet you were too scared for that shit. So I'm like halfway through, and I liked it the first time I saw it. I'm enjoying it so far, but I haven't really gotten into like my scary movie rewatches for Halloween for October. So I'm kind of hoping to start doing that this week. How about you, Jeff?
Fun. Honestly, I'm gonna be straight up. I watched a lot of baseball right now because it's a Subway Series going on. Well, it's not, but it's Yankees. Yankees and Mets are both in their divisional series. So the Yankees just clinched to go to the World Series, and the Mets are currently right now against the Dodgers, and the Dodgers are up per game. But anyway, I watched a lot of that. It's been really fucking fun. I watched Folia Da, but you know, I have a close connection to that, so I'm putting that off to the side. And back to the TV. So we started Penguin, love it, love Penguin, love Chris Milioti, love Colin Farrell. It's great, really, really, really big fan. Bad Monkey ended really badly. I'm mad at them. I'm mad at Bad Monkey for the way that they finished their series. They it seemed like they got renewed. They do this in Formula One. No, they do this in football. Okay, in football, if you clinch the playoffs, you don't actually go into a new game with a game plan. So like you sit there and you're like, I don't want to show any new plays, but so you're planning for the playoffs, but you still play your game on Sunday. I feel like that's what they did. They got renewed, and it concluded so fucking poorly. It was really, really bad last episode, and nobody can tell me that otherwise. It was a really fun series to watch, and oh my God, they copped out at their finale. It was really disappointing. Only Murders is pretty fun, but it's you know, they're stretching a little bit. I feel like it would be a great 8-episode show, and it's going to go for 10, and it's good. What the fuck else? Slow Horses is so good. This whole it wrapped up 6 episodes. It was fucking fantastic.
So much internet buzz
it's so
right
great.
now.
Good.
Yeah.
It deserves it. It's so fucking good. And then I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I don't think so. I think that's probably it for us. So let's pick a movie from 1959.
Let's do it.
All right, listen to some Dasein. We'll see you in 2 seconds, film fans. And we're back.
And we're back.
And we're back.
Guys, 1959, what a year. We spent some time thinking about it. We thought about for Halloween doing the House on Haunted Hill, but Vincent Price is not gonna happen this week. We're gonna do it. We're gonna go to Mount Rushmore, people. We're gonna get in the car, we're gonna take the road trip because we are doing North by Northwest.
Why? Because that'll light up YouTube like a fucking fire.
I hope so.
Dave, you can't say we're doing it for the numbers. You can't say that. That's not
it's
true.
also a movie worth
It's also
discussing.
you
Two of
haven't
my
seen it before,
co-hosts have
Dave.
never seen it. Two of my co-hosts have never seen it.
I have seen it.
so-
I just don't remember seeing it.
All right. Well, great. That's a good
One
review.
of us was microdosing while they saw it. Yeah.
I remember they went to Mount Rushmore, and I remember this mistaken identity. Shut up, we're gonna watch fucking Hitchcock's North by Northwest, starring Cary Grant. Let's go, Cary.
That's
Cary
Alfred
Grant.
Hitchcock, in case you never heard of him.
Dave, you gotta stop drinking this 9% beer. We'll
Fuck
see you
off.
next week, film fans.